There is brand new polling out on the presidential approval rating, and it's not good for President Biden. Joining us now, Harriet and CNN senior data reporter. These numbers are really tough.
You know, John, I don't like just looking at one poll. I like looking at multiple polls. And there were 4 different polls released this week. Quinnipiac, we had a hard public opinion strategies poll. That's with NBC or CNBC, Ipsos Reuters, CBS News, YouGov. I want you to look. These numbers kind of differ. They range from the low 30s to the low 40s. Low 40s is not good either. But what's key is the lowest are tied for the low for the pollster. Lowest tier, lowest tier. This is 1 point off the lowest tier. And when you have 3 or 4 pollsters showing the lowest numbers for the President of the United States, that is indicative of a president who's in a lot of trouble, at least to where he is standing historically.
Well, let's talk about history here. How does Joe Biden, President Biden, compare to former President Trump in this stage of the presidency?
You know, there was always that thing, oh, Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating at this point in his presidency. We did it over and over and over and over again. Well, at this point in his presidency, Donald Trump's numbers, actually his average approval rating is 1 point higher than Joe Biden's, which is at 41%, Donald Trump at 42%. A first-term president at this point in his presidency, this is the lowest. This is the lowest for anyone who was elected to the presidency and didn't get up there through the vice presidency. This is a really, really, really bad number.
And in terms of the effect it's having on the Democratic Party, and I think this is a great thing to look at, you look at special elections. And it's not always about who wins or loses special elections. It's about the margins.
It's about the margins. So there was that California 22nd special election that occurred last week, and I think a lot of people weren't paying that much attention. It was Devin Nunes' old district, because the districts basically get torn up through redistricting. This district will not exist in a year, but it's the baseline. It's comparing the result to the baseline. This was a jungle primary, so all the Republicans, all the Democrats ran against each other in one round. And what did we see? We saw the total GOP vote. Look at that, 66%, a 32-point margin. Compare that to the 2020 presidential baseline. The Republicans outperformed this by 14 points. The margin then was only about 5 or 6. In terms of the margin, it was a 27-point overperformance. This was the type of thing when we went back in 2018, we're like, oh my God, look at all these great Democratic overperformances. This was a huge Republican overperformance.
And again, it's just a matter of Republicans doing better than they had in this same place, not always about winning or losing. And that's something, the Republicans, you see some strength there overall.
I do. So, again, it's not just about one poll. It's not just about one election. It's about looking at the elections in total. So these are all the GOP state and federal legislative special elections through this point in the year. This is the average margin, comparing this cycle with the last cycle. In 2022, the GOP on average is outperforming Trump by 9 points. What a switcheroo from where we were in 2018, where the GOP was underperforming. Look at this, underperforming Trump by 14 points. Of course, that led to a huge Democratic tidal wave that November.
Finally, one of the things driving this, the economy, or economic concerns, I should say.
Yeah, economic concerns. So, look, we spoke about this earlier in the week. If you look at jobs, the economy is doing pretty good. If you look at inflation, not so good. How do voters see it? How do Americans see it? This is the University of Michigan Consumer Confidence Index through this point of presidency. Look at that, just 66 in April of 2022, going back since 1978. It is tied for the lowest. It was 66 in April of 1982. Of course, that was a good year for Democrats in the House of Representatives with the Republican president. And I'll just note, if you don't believe that the economy is hurting the Democrats and Joe Biden, look at the net approval rating. That's approval minus disapproval. Joe Biden at this point, minus 23 points. That is the worst on record since they started asking about economic job approval ratings back in 1978 with Jimmy Carter, who, of course, ended up the economy ate his presidency and put it to bits.
계좌번호 현금 없이 당근 원리.